पैसा नहीं तो मेरा माँ बाप ने हमको रेस्पेक्ट नहीं दी घर में। मैं घर में जाएगा तो बोला कहीं को आया तू, ऐसा पूछा। क्या करेगा, इधर आदमी ठीक नहीं, उधर माँ बाप ठीक नहीं। फिर उस दिन सोचा कैसा भी दुनिया में पैसा कमाने का।
Where do you see yourself in 5 years? In 10 years?
If in 10 years I haven't had a baby and you haven't had a baby,
No, Michael.
20 years,
No, Michael.
30.
What is the dream of a regular person? A nice job, a nice house, somebody to share it with, and wait for it. Children. The older generations were somewhat in a bizarre competition of having as many children as possible. Especially in the hunting-gathering society, having more children meant they had free laborers. And it is quite safe to say that they had no regard whatsoever about the implications of having so many children and, most importantly, raising them. Raising children who are very much real people with real feelings and emotions. What has changed centuries after? Not much.
I'm tired. Can I sleep in your house tonight?
Think about your parents for a second. The mere thought brings in about thousands of emotions. The said emotions, however, are not always positive ones. Not for all of us anyway. It's quite ironic how, unlike our fellow animals, humans are the only species whose children are born completely unguarded, completely helpless, and they need to be taken care of until a certain point before they can actually spread their wings and fly. Be it parents or parental figures, our primary caregivers play crucially important roles in our lives. In the Journal of the American Institute of Criminal Law and Criminology's chapter, How Can Children Behave If Parents Misbehave?, Bedford lists a number of several different real-life scenarios, in all of which parental involvement profoundly affected the children's behaviors and patterns. Their involvement in our lives, or the lack thereof, affects us in all sorts of ways. Art imitates life, but art also represents the world as we know it, sometimes in a very triggering manner. In 3 chapters, I will be discussing layers of parental trauma with literary and media representations, focusing on the stories A Rose for Emily, The Garden Party, and the poem Girl and My Papa's Walls, as I try resonating with characters whose lives and actions are deeply influenced by their dynamics with a parent through a strict father's domineering presence, a dismissive mother's shallow control, an emotionally unavailable father's abusive patterns, and the complex dynamic of a mother and daughter under post-colonial patriarchal society. So what is a parent? Someone who takes care of you when you need them to. Someone who makes you feel loved, cared for, secure, safe, protected.
Sometimes, to survive, we must become more than we were programmed to be.
Sometimes a parent is a robot. But speaking of feeling secured,
And I've been meaning to tell you, I think your house is haunted. Your dad is.
one universally experienced girl experience is it was essay on a random Tuesday, and another one for all of us, especially in the Asian community, is that we were low-key and basically being physically abused growing up. Now that's a shocking factor. How come the word parents and physical abuse are being used in the same sentence? It's all, don't bring your Western bullshit into this Deshi family, because how come it is domestic or physical abuse if I'm eating my own child? I'm the one who brought them into this world. I can do whatever, and it's not abuse. Guess what? It kind of is. Trolley problem this, trolley problem that. One of the very first dilemmas that we ever experienced was, are we allowed to disappoint our parents, people who gave birth to us? people who are doing so much for us, and we are indebted to them. They are taking care of our needs, supporting us, financially at least. Chances are that you have heard this phrase, we are making so many sacrifices for you. What else could you possibly want?
बहुत सारे पेरेंट्स कहते हैं कि हमने बच्चों के लिए बहुत कुछ सैक्रिफाइस किया। मुझे समझ में नहीं आता कि ये सेंटेंस आता कहाँ से है। अगर मैंने बच्चे पैदा किए तो मैंने अपनी खुशी के लिए किए क्योंकि मैं बाप बनना चाहती थी। अगर मैंने अपना जॉब छोड़ा बच्चों के लिए, बच्चों ने तो नहीं कहा, मैंने इसलिए छोड़ा क्योंकि मुझे बच्चों की देखरेख करने में ज्यादा मजा आता था, ना कि एक गवर्नमेंट जॉब करने में जहां मैं उनके बंद जाऊं और ट्रांसफर होती रहे। अगर मैं रात को नहीं सोई, बच्चे बीमार थे, तो क्योंकि मुझे नींद नहीं आ रही थी। अगर बच्चा बीमार है, अगर मैंने कुछ समय दिया बच्चों को या मैंने अपनी कोई नीड को कम करके बच्चों के लिए किया तो वो अपनी खुशी के लिए किया। तो इसमें सैक्रिफाइस कहाँ आ गया? और अगर आपने कुछ किया तो इस एक्सपेक्टेशन से किया कि वो कल को कुछ करेंगे।
And that is the issue with godhood and parenthood and having a god complex. Because your children are not punching bags for you to take your frustrations upon. For they are not objects in a rage room. And you certainly cannot do whatever you want.
Did what you were supposed to do. Because you brought me into this world. And from that day, you owed me everything you could ever do for me. Like I will owe my son if I ever have another. But you don't own me. You can't tell me when or where I'm out of line. Or try to get me to live my life according to your rules. You don't even know what I am, Dad. You don't know who I am. You don't know how I feel, what I think.
My Papa's Waltz by Theodore Rothko. As a small boy, all the speaker wanted to be was loved and cared for by his dad. Instead, he was forced to do the special waltzing with him as he used to be intoxicated, handling his own little boy roughly. The lingering stink of the alcohol haunts the speaker to his adulthood as Rothko begins the poem by mentioning, "The whiskey on your breath could make a small boy dizzy." He insinuates just enough, giving the readers room for detecting the father's violent patterns. He seemed angry, perhaps from his work of labor to a terrifying extent, where the speaker's mother was unable to protect their child from his drunken breath. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. But sometimes, what doesn't kill you gives you lifelong trauma and makes you crave one minuscule crumb of affection from your father, even if it comes in the form of physical abuse. Because of his father's line of work, he doesn't get to see him very often. And when he does see him, he is beating the shit out of him. And the pain, the violence is not even registering to him as violence, as pain. Because to him, this is the only time that his father is finally seeing him. He is finally being seen by someone who means the world to him. He mistakes his father's violent attention for affection. Somebody who is absent from his life, somebody who is neglecting him all day, and he comes home drunk and beats him. And to that little child, this is a special kind of waltzing. We are just dancing. We are dancing around the house and we are making a mess out of the house, and my mother is trying to save me, but she can't. She is unable to save me from the wrath of my own father because of his violent tendencies. And the tone of this poem is very ambiguous, which makes me wonder if it because how much we have silenced men. Men are not silent by any means, they speak a lot. But we discourage men from showing emotions even in the 21st century, even today. Back when the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard case was broadcasting in front of the whole world, it was still weird and it was still laughable to some people that a guy can be abused by his wife, physically at least. And it was a whole thing. And it made me wonder if this has something to do with the ambiguous tone of the poem. But ambiguous or not, he insinuates just enough. The poem is written in the past tense and it is directly addressed to his father. And it is safe for us to assume that the speaker is now an adult and he is looking back in time and recollecting all these memories. And perhaps this is the only way that he can talk to his father. That he still has this one way of communicating with his father because there is no way of confronting him. I looked up his personal life and details, and as it turns out, this is inspired from his own life. And Rothko had a very rough childhood and a very complex and dysfunctional relationship with his father. Physical abuse can leave more than just wounds on the skin. It leaves wounds that run deep. Years and years of therapy and healing can barely do something to even scratch the surface. Pun intended. The book Parent-Child Relations, A Guide to Raising Children, the four writers point out how fathers being there as role models for their sons profoundly shape their views towards masculinity and emotional freedom. The emotional wounds left by parental figures can ominously leave lifelong injuries on the psyche of a child.
Don't talk back.
In this movie, the mother is very physically aggressive towards her, and they have a very strained relationship, no thanks to her. And beneath all of it, she has that one excuse. Everything I did for you. I made you a star. I made you what you are. You would be nothing without me.
Made you a survivor. I survived you, Mom! I'm here because of me!
What about everything else? What about my health? What about how I'm feeling? How you cannot push me to the brink of death and be saying that all I did for you. All I did to save you, and things like that. Blood is thicker than water. When you are in a manipulation competition but your opponent is your parents, as they casually tell you do whatever you want, after making explicitly sure that you know what they want you to do. As a woman, to feel distant from your mother is to feel alienated from your own self. It's almost like you have been exiled from your own homeland.
Marceline, is it just you and me in the wreckage of the world? That must be so.
But please just talk to me, Mom! Mom, please talk to me!
And I know
You're not coming.
here with you, but I'm losing myself and I'm afraid you're gonna lose me too.
A girl's relationship with her mother will affect her for the rest of her life. And this relationship can be as beautiful as it can be damaging to her self-identity and self-expression, if not nurtured well. In the story, Laura tries to mimic her mother every step of the way. She is trying to manage the house, she is trying to take care of things and managing the staff and taking care of the affairs, and since there's a party, she is on charge. She is trying her best to mimic her mother. But then again, her mother says she is not going to interfere, but then she does. She interferes a lot. As a girl, I can vouch for this myself, that I have always wanted to be my mother. From trying on her jewelries and dresses whenever I could, and trying to wear shari with her, scarves, it was always, I want to be this. And I think we all can relate to that at one point or another. And a mother's validation, a mother's words of soothing touch can make all the difference.
You know what, Mom? I made the dress.
You did a lovely job
Thank you.
with Rory and the dress.
Thank you.
This is my one of most favorite poems ever, where we have on one hand a mother's intense and relentless speech, basically a monologue telling her daughter essentially how to be, how to do this, how to do that, and on the other hand we have simply a woman, a mother who is looking out for her child, who is looking out for her daughter, who is also a woman in a male-dominated and especially in a post-colonial society. But her tone is very harsh, and the choice of her words, specifically like slut on repeat, and the attempt to control her daughter's sexuality is very patronizing. She is asking her not to squat, she is telling her to do things in a very specific way, telling her to smile in one manner and do things in a different manner. And especially in a patriarchal society, one just knows that this internalized misogyny has been passed down upon from generations to this mother and probably to the next generations as well. But she is caring in her own way, as she is telling her daughter how to abort a baby if that is necessary. If something goes wrong, it's still your fault because you're the kind of woman that a baker won't let near their bread. After encountering a death for the first time in her life, Laura is startled. Her world is shaken to the core and she is trying to navigate her feelings, and Mrs. Sheridan does nothing to comfort her. Instead of trying to be there for her and helping her understand her feelings, she dismisses her feelings altogether and invalidates them. Something that not a lot of people talk about is how we start to resent our siblings because of how different their relationship is with our parents. It's like we have the same parents and we have grown up in the same family, and yet it's like they are whole different people for them versus who they are to us. And in this story, Laura's sister Jose is seen to be taking after Mrs. Sheridan all right, and they are both very patronizing to her and she cannot relate to either of them, and this makes her feel truly alienated from the family.
My boy!
What was it that made you so scared of intimacy with your children?
I always held you.
Hold me.
What?
Hold me now.
Don't be ridiculous.
Hold me now.
I've got no reason to, do I?
I'm your daughter.
That is not a reason.
Why not? Mothers
You're
hold their
35.
daughters.
35 years old.
I never felt any warmth from her. She never kissed
This
me.
is Henry Miller talking about his unaffectionate mother who barely ever held him. He has been carrying all this pain and longing since he was very little, as he recalls an incident from when he was 12 years old.
We're 12 years old, and I go home with.
Come on then. Otherwise you'll write some bloody article about how your mother didn't want to hug you.
You know, what might be a random Tuesday for you might be a defining moment in your child's life. Mrs. Sheridan doesn't even realize that she has started to lose her daughter because of her manipulative tendencies and her toxic patterns. The thing about her manipulation is that she keeps her daughter away, one arm away, and she makes her work for her validation and approval, but she also makes sure that she never gets it.
Raising boys and girls, are they different? The writers talk about how parents need to do their best and try to instill a sense of confidence, self-sufficiency in their daughters, helping them make their own decisions as they emphasize daughters'
I don't want to be a loser.
You're not a loser. Where'd you get the idea you're a loser?
Because Dad hates losers.
Whoa. Back up a minute.
More than winning, more than anything, Olive is worried that she's going to let her father down. We can all joke about the appa nahi manenge all we want, but we have all been there once or twice. Every time that we have tried to do something that our parents didn't particularly approved of or was proud of.
इंजीनियर बन के फ्रस्ट्रेट हो जाऊंगा, फिर जिंदगी भर आपको कोसूंगा.
I let my parents down. I let my entire family down tremendously when I chose my major, English. Just like Farhan's dad in 3 Idiots, my family decided that I was going to be a doctor, and I tried my best. I was even more disappointed in myself because I couldn't be that person per se. Disappointment is not the right word, but I did try. It was very intense. When I was younger, when I was crawling on the ground, everybody told me this thing when they used to call me Dr. Shahid, and I used to respond to that. I tried to love biology, I tried to love chemistry and everything, but I didn't love it enough. I didn't love it as much as I loved English, as much as I loved literature. And Little Women by Louisa May Alcott, it changed my life. As cliched as it is, I decided that I'm going to major in English after I read that. But yeah, as parents, is it fair for you to impose your own unfulfilled dreams on your children? Children often see themselves as extensions of their parents, parts of their parents, and so do parents. But it's particularly problematic when they do it so that their children can carry on their so-called legacy. How fair is it for you as parents to resent your children or trying to take over their lives, controlling them because that is what you want for them or for yourself? If you must, you can still live vicariously through them without dictating their career choices.
They'll tell me that acting's a whim and I should forget it. They're counting on me. They'll just tell me to put it out of my mind for my own good.
Carpe diem! The first time in my life I feel completely alive!
How many people do you know who chose one career path over the other just because they didn't want to disappoint their parents, or they could not afford to experience the wrath of their parents? You shouldn't be forced to compromise your very own authenticity and creativity and peace just to be accepted, loved by the people who are supposed to love you no matter what. Why must you struggle with your own self-expression and identity? I love Finding Nemo so much because by the end of the movie, Marlin actually learns to trust Nemo's abilities to do things on his own.
A Rose for Emily by William Faulkner. One of the very first instances that show the extent of Emily's abandonment issues was when she refused to bury her father, saying that he really isn't dead. As mad as her actions might seem, deep down, being haunted by loneliness her entire life, all she did them to avoid the loneliness like a plague. It starts to make sense why she would want to keep Baron by her side forever, and desperate to gain the agency over her own life that she never got to have, especially after realizing that he was probably going to leave the town and leave her to fend for herself, and leaving her completely isolated.
Since it is impossible to get political, introducing patriarchy. In her review of the book Daddy Issues, Love and Hate in the Times of Patriarchy, Rosalis mentions women's freedom being affected by hierarchical divisions. This is also the epitome of patriarchy trying to dominate women and just dictating her dating life.
None of the young men were quite good enough for Miss Emily. To make things worse, because of his own superiority complex and somewhat classist narcissism, Mr. Grierson went out of his way to keep her alienated from people and potential suitors.
Unfortunately, we never get to hear Emily's point of view. We never get to hear what is going on in her mind because the story starts after she is dead. But Mr. Grierson's cold demeanor and strict parenting leaves Emily completely and emotionally paralyzed. The chokehold of her father's overbearing presence and upbringing were intense enough to make her develop a crippling fear of loneliness. And she refuses to let go of anything at all. The thing about a rigid and controlling upbringing is that you are never actually out of that prison. The fear that you grew up with, it stays with you for a long, long time. You ever saw that scene from Shawshank Redemption that the old guy was out of the prison, he was out of jail, but the jail was not out of him. He could not breathe, he could not settle outside that environment because that is all he has known for a very long, long time. And this is what happens precisely when you are living in a cage, when you have no agency, when you have no authority to even think for yourself. A video was circulating around social media almost 4 or 5 years back, I would say. It was an Indian man and he was hitting his son pretty hard just because he has cut his mustache off. That was it. And it was basically a meme template and everybody was laughing at it. But is it that deep? How come you don't have that autonomy to do something to your own body? Something as trivial, something as inconsequential like cutting your mustache off and you are being hit physically.
This is a short film called The Court 2018 by Ukrainian animator Alexander Babnov. This is a pretty accurate take on how some dysfunctional and codependent parent-child dynamics do function in the very real world. You can see how they are holding each other back in some subtle or more obvious ways. The power dynamic is certainly there. The parent is the older, experienced one in the dynamic who is making the conscious decision of sheltering the child, keeping him away from potential hurt and everything. But does that actually do any good? Because of how dependent they both grow on to be on each other, they have no life outside of the toxic dynamic they share. But I bet they both feel like they are doing their job and they are doing what they are obligated to. And here's the notion of not abandoning one's child or one's parent. But the thing is, letting somebody have a life
and grow and make their own decisions and even mistakes is not abandonment.
Mom! Just stop! Good for you. You're figuring your shit out. That's great. I'm really, really happy for you. But I'm tired. I don't want to hurt anymore, and for some reason when I'm with you, it just hurts the both of us.
Here is the paradox of we had it worse. The thing is, the elders might disagree, but more than materialistic things or any other thing really, what we truly need is the reassurance that we are truly cared for and loved in this world, that we are not completely alone. But here comes another thing, that what they're providing for us, they didn't have that themselves. And to them, they're doing us a favor, and this is apparently a lot because they were deprived of things that they wish they had. My parents are always telling me how lucky I am, of how I have the things that they only wish they had. And I thought, and I would say they were exaggerating, but then I met my grandparents and they were not the most affectionate people. And I understand at this point in life that that's the thing. The truth is, care goes way beyond making sure that the basic needs of the children are met. They often take pride in their better parenting, since unfortunately they often struggle to receive those from their parents. Jokes or not, something that instantly manages to reach with me is jokes about daddy issues. And men joking about daddy issues in women. As a man, why are you celebrating the failure of somebody of your species? Apparently, jokes are only funny when they are being told at the expense of somebody else. But this is something that one could never be able to laugh at. Apparently, women with daddy issues don't have gag reflex.
What is the pain you wish you could take away from me? And don't mess up my makeup.
I wish you had a dad. I wish you grew up knowing that you were safe and that you didn't feel alone all the time.
Nothing's gonna hurt you, babe.
At the end of the day, what children truly want is to be accepted.
Look, you had a beautiful friendship. Maybe more than a friendship. And I envy you. My place, most parents would hope the whole thing goes away. Pray their sons land on their feet, but I am not such a parent. How you live your life is your business.
We might look like we don't care, but the thing is, children always do care about what their parents think of them, about what they think in general.
आप क्या सोचेंगे फर्क पड़ता है? कपूर साहब क्या सोचेंगे इससे मुझे कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता। अरे मुझे तो उनका पहला नाम तक नहीं पता।
You know the notion that when you live with your parents, you don't pay rent, but you pay with emotional labor instead. As in, your mental health is the one who suffers, if I may personify it. And only when you have moved out that you can truly see the difference, that you are not worried. 24/7, you are not worrying about if you have done something wrong or the constant gnawing feeling that you are in trouble for some reason that you developed when you were like 12.
Every couple of hours I have to remind myself that I'm not in trouble. I haven't done anything wrong. You know, no one is chasing me. My parents aren't going to tell me off. In fact, yep, you're a 27-year-old woman who hasn't done anything wrong.
He'd win the Oscar and remembers exactly how her mother reacted.
When I won the Oscar for Misery, she said, "I don't know what all the excitement about. You didn't discover the cure for cancer." I forgot to thank her that night.
You know, you did thank her. At the end of your speech, you thanked her.
No, I did not. I did not. You go back and look at it. I didn't.
We did go back and look. Then we showed her.
My family, my friends, my mom at home, and my dad, who I hope is watching somewhere.
What do you think of him?
Thank you. Why did I think I didn't thank her? Oh, what a relief.
Why does that mean so much to you?
She should have had my life.
You can just see the relief in her eyes that she was right this entire time. After her mother has made her feel guilty her almost entire life about not thanking her in an acceptance speech. Imagine your reality being altered to the point where you don't even start to question if the other party is wrong, that she did thank her. And the last comment is really interesting. She should have my life. She deserved my life. There's this phenomena, there's this meme thing that Deshi parents, after working hard, after making sure that their children have a comfortable life, and then they're mad because why do you have a comfortable life? Because we didn't. Make it make sense. And it's all fun and joke again, but is it though? You know that entire, when your card declines at therapy and they bring out your dad, they bring out your mother, and she never had you. She chose herself. This time she is after her job, she is after her own thing, and she is happy. And your father did board on that plane. He did go after his dream job. And at one point in childhood, it just hits you that your parents probably would be better off. And in contrast to that, imagine making your child purposefully feel guilty about existing. I would be better off without you. I made sacrifices for you, and I would be in such a great place if I didn't have you. You ruined my life. You ever see somebody doing something that you cannot see yourself doing, ever, and they're having the time of their life doing it? Me, when I see a CSE major or any major that has anything to do with maths. But that is how I feel about having children. It is not something that you can do as a side chore, as a side quest, or even as an obligation. You have to do it if you think 100% that you can do it and you're up for it. Like, the last time I checked, it is completely legal to choose to not have kids. Parenthood is not for everyone. But legal or not, this decision of not having children is not easy for a woman to take. Because suddenly they are being selfish. And what do you mean you don't want to do that one thing that ruined your mother's life?
In Daddy Issues, Love and Hate in the Times of Patriarchy, Angel critiques the societal anticipations of motherhood.
It's almost like it's her kid. And sometimes she is the only one who's going to be raising it, alone, even within a marriage. Speaking of acceptance speeches, I would like to acknowledge and thank my friend Pratasha because she let me have her very new phone for 3 whole days, during the span of which I am filming and editing this video. I did not want to end this on a pessimistic tone, so I'm going to do it on a depressing one instead. I'm going to read you something that is written by yours truly. All I have ever known is wanting them dead. Well, that's not very nice. Let me rephrase that. I have wanted them gone. For good. Wasted upon every star. Well, a missing person is just worse, so I rationalize my lifelong wait. It would probably happen one day anyway, that much I was aware of. But that had nothing to do to someone who could not will time to pass fast enough, holding her every breath. When you live in a burning home, you hope that you would get used to the flames at some point. The burn would eventually subdue, and maybe, who knows, one day you might not even flinch at the sight of a flicker. But all you have ever known is the blazing fire that you mistook for an odd warmth, keeping you company, keeping you safe, when you were anything but. And you have not slept a day since. It's not even the frequent violent nightmares, at least not always, but the sense of alarm that has you on a chokehold. Terrified, trapped, immobile, helpless. You are scared with animalistic fear, eyeing the exit of every room that you step into. So you tell yourself that you are allowed to run, that you are allowed to escape whenever you might need to.
Huh.